Hey, what's up, everybody? So I want to go and give my prediction day ahead of time on UFC 252's fight between Sugar Sean O'Malley and Cheeto Marlon Vera. Uh, Exciting fight on the card. There's a couple of fights that are exciting, but this one right here, I'm gonna put my money down on it and tell you what I think about it and what my reasoning is for it. So I think that Cheeto Vera is going to defeat Sean O'Malley in this fight, and I'm going to give you, my reasoning, and it's the reasoning is very simple. Is Doing my research, I find that um, Cheeto Vera has faced stiffer competition, and I do believe he's a more rounded fighter than Sean O'Malley. All right, so Sean O'Malley has the flash, he has the UFC behind him, the promotion, right? Right, you could call him a hype train if you want, but he has all of that, right? They're looking for the next Conor McGregor, right? The Conor McGregor time is over. They're looking for the next guy. So he's flamboyant, has the colorful hair, colorful personality, all of that in place, and now he has a 12-0 record. All right. However, that means absolutely nothing in the cage. All right. And so, what I like to do is when I'm breaking down any fight, is of course I compare the attributes of the fighters, age, such and such. All that stuff seems to be a wash. Okay, they're pretty close in age. Vera's 27, O'Malley's 25. O'Malley has a nice height advantage, right? Being 5'11", long fighter, and Vera's only 5'8". But let's look at a couple of the recent fights of Sean O'Malley, and let's compare the competition. Let's say last four fights or so between Sean O'Malley and Marlon Vera. So first, I'm gonna look at a fight from Sean O'Malley against Eddie Wineland. This is a fight that's been replayed a lot, where he gets this one punch walk off, um, knockout. All right, it's pretty spectacular and impressive. Okay, but now we getting ready to put money down, so we have to look past the hype. All right, so first of all, we see Eddie Wineland, 36. Maybe that's a little old for fighting, getting up there, right? Definitely not uh, on a come up, right? On the downside of the mountain. And the first thing I see is when I see the red representing losses, and I see a lot of red, right? More so than green, especially going back. This goes back to all the way to 2014. This lets me know that a fighter generally is on the downside of his career. Listen, any fighter can have a two-fight losing streak and stuff like that. But when you see the consistency, there's more red than green, then you know they're pretty much on the downside, especially when the fighter has been fighting so long. You see, Wineland, 24 wins, 14 losses. That's a lot of experience, but people that bring up experience, they don't want to mention that it's also a lot of wear and tear on the body. Yeah, you got the experience, you got the knowledge, but if your body's broken down, you can't react with the information that you have. You'll see the holes, you'll see the opportunities, but you can't get there because you have too much damage done to your body. All right? So, to me, when I see that, okay, Sean O'Malley beat this fighter, it's great because he's supposed to. He's a new guy, up and coming. They give you some like a test, gatekeeper, so to speak, to use those kind of terms. He's supposed to beat him, and he did his thing, so he knocked him out. But do I think Eddie Wine was like some kind of guy that would make me become a believer in Sean O'Malley? No. Only thing is, I could say is Sean O'Malley is talented, right? But am I a believer? Yeah, no, I'm not. Okay. So again, Eddie Wineland at one time was a top fighter. The key word or the key phrase is one time. When was that time? We gotta go back. We gotta go back to like 2013, right? 2012. Now notice if you look at this, um, the chart now, you see a lot of green, right, as opposed to red. Look at it. This is early in his career. A lot of green. Right, he had a rough start starting off, but then he hit his stride in about 2005. You know, this fighter hit his peak. This particular fighter, and you can see all the wins, right? Couple of losses, but these are tough fighters. Look at Ronnie Yaha. You're right. These are tough fighters. He's not losing just to like some dude off the street, right? And he was so good that it brought him to the top of the game. So about 2011, he's fighting Uriah Faber, who's at the peak of his game at the time. Joseph Benavidez, same situation, um, at the peak of his game. Not the Benavidez we just saw get cracked against um, Figueiredo, right? This is a different guy, 2011. All right. Henan Barral, again, 2013. So he lost to these fighters, but these guys were top fighters at the time. Okay. But you can see as time went on, 2014, he's on the downside of things. He starts taking more losses, and the losses start coming against fighters of a lesser ilk, so to speak, right? Not championship fighters, but fighters that are like, start really not being in the top 10, and then that's when you become just a gatekeeper or a fighter that you be used to test up and coming prospects. So Sean O'Malley passed that test with flying colors, but again, we're talking specifically about who had the better competition. So you see for yourself, there's Eddie Wineland. Next fight, Jose Alberto Quinones. It was 8-4. Another knockout by Sean O'Malley. And you can see that this fighter, still relatively young. He had decent run. He's 8-4. He has a lot of green in there. 8 wins. Against 4 losses. And before he lost to Nathaniel Wood, who again is a monster, good fighter, right? So that gives this fighter credibility. The fact that he lost to a good fighter like Nathaniel Wood, right? But he did get submitted, right, in round 2. So not quite maybe on that level, maybe a little below that, but he beat the other fighters that he had to beat. So to me, this fighter is not an easy fight just given to Sean O'Malley. Like, he did his thing. He beat a fighter, and he dominated, right? So I would give him more credit for this fight against Jose Quinones than say Eddie Wineland. Let's look at the next fight against this guy, Andre Sukamthath. I'm sure I'm mispronouncing that. The Asian sensation is much easier to say. Actually, that's hard to say too because there's a lot of S sounds. Asian sensation. After saying Sukamthath. But again, here's this guy's 13-8. Tough guy, right? Never been knocked out. Never been submitted. Just lost by decision 8 times. But again, here is what stands out to me as a red flag. In the recent years, right, the last 3 years, going back to 2017, we see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 out of 7 losses. Okay, so that lets me know that this fighter, one time you only had 1 loss, and then 2017 came, and all of a sudden he just, lost like a bunch of times. Right, he lost 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times, 5 out of 7 fights. So that let me know he's definitely on the downside. I don't know if he was injured or, just like had mental issues or what, but something happened where he was not the same as he was before that. Because if you go before that in 2016, you can see again all is green against a few losses. However, what happens sometimes with fighters too is that they are fighting in other organizations and they build up these impressive records, and then they get to the UFC, and then they're it's just not at that level. You got to remember, the UFC would be equivalent to making it to the NFL and football or NBA. So a lot of players, play, in the Canadian Football League, and they look like world beaters. They get to the NFL, they can't do it, or they play Division One college, and they were like the greatest, at the position. They get to the NFL, can't make it. So there's no shame in getting to the UFC and just not being that dude at the UFC level. But this is what happens to a lot of these guys. So they look impressive, and then they come up. They get that invitation, UFC, and you can see in his debut he lost, and he lost the next fight. Then he won. Usually you get 3 fights and then that cuts you. But he won that third fight, but then he lost to Sean O'Malley. Then he won, and then now two losses in a row. So he's having a rough go of it in the UFC. So is he really like a top, UFC fighter? He's like right on the, basically right at the bottom of the UFC, totem pole as far as fights are concerned. But again, props to Sean O'Malley because he did what he had to do. Right, beat the guy. Next fight is against Tyrion Ware in the UFC fighter finale, a tough finale, and again 17-11. Okay, but this is what sticks out to me: is all the losses in a row. Right, from 2019 to 2017. So to me, and Sean O'Malley's in there. So a lot of guys beat this guy. So something happened in that time period. Again, you can see all the green. So this guy's doing this thing. He only had 3 losses, a bunch of wins, right? So what happened? So what it looks like to me is the same thing that happened with the last guys. Basically, he was in another organization. He's doing this thing. He got scouted by the UFC. And then when he got to the UFC, they put him against this monster right here, Cody Stamann. He lost his debut. Then he lost the next fight against Sean O'Malley. And then he lost again. Then they gave him another chance against Merabdashvili. And then after that, it seemed like he was cut from the UFC in 2019 because his next fights are out of the organization. So again, Sean O'Malley defeated this fighter too, but was this guy really at the level, UFC level? Again, that doesn't take anything away from Sean O'Malley. Again, we're just looking at the level of competition compared to Marlon Vera. So now I looked at a few fighters on that side, and now I'm gonna go on the other side because we got to be fair. And believe me, I'm trying to be objective. I don't care, really don't care who wins. I just want the person that I bet on to win. But I don't really care other than that. So it's not like I'm a fan of one of these guys or anything like that. I'm a fan of all the fighters. Anybody steps in the cage, it's no joke. Okay, so here's Marlon Vera. So the first fight you're gonna look at is a loss, right? Because he has 6 losses. So a lot of people look at that and be like, oh, he has 6 losses and O'Malley has none, so O'Malley's gonna win, right? You can't be that basic, Let's look at who he lost to. Again, we're talking about level of competition. So remember, Sean O'Malley's first fight was against Eddie Wineland, and we already broke that guy down. So here's a loss of Marlon Vera against Yadong Song. So we're gonna see what kind of guy he loses to, right? 16-4. So you're like, okay, he seems like an average fighter, right? But first of all, he's 22 years old, so very young. But if you notice, where are the losses? Right, it's 4 losses. Where are the losses? And remember, he's 22. So he's 22 now. He lost in 2016. So he lost when he was really young. He was probably like 17 to 18 when he just started fighting. And that's when he lost his fights. You see 2016, 2015. So he was a kid. 2014 he lost. Right, in ONE FC. So he was like 17, 18 when he lost. His body wasn't even mature yet. So this guy hasn't lost since 2016, October. And he's won everything since then and drew with Cody Stamann, who again is a monster. We keep seeing that name pop up. For those of you who don't know, who's Cody Stamann? A monster. Look at that, 19-3. These are guys that are fighting for the titles, right? In title conversation, title contention. Cody Stamann lost to Aljamain Sterling, who is should be fighting for the title against Peter Yan. Jamie Rivera. We talking about monsters, right? Lions losing to other lions. He drew Cody Stamann. So this dude is for real. So for him to beat Chito Vera it's not like, oh, Chito Vera just lost to some chump. Like, he lost to like a really strong fighter who could potentially be fighting for a title himself one of these days. And he lost that by decision, which is important, right? He didn't get knocked out, he didn't get submitted, he lost by decision. So again, if I was to compare him to any of Sean O'Malley's competition, I have to take this fighter over all of those guys. But that's just one fighter. Let's keep going on. He fought Andre Ewell next. 16-6. And he defeated Andre Ewell. Again, Andre Ewell, good fighter. Right? Not many losses, right, in recent years. So we could still see this fight is like on his way up still. He's still in that green area, the green pastures, right? He doesn't have a bunch of losses stacking up one after another. And who did he lose to? He lost to Nathaniel Wood again. Another monster. 17-4. Again, Lions losing the Lions. And he beat Renan Barao, also former champion. Going back to 2019, we see him beating a fighter named Noeline Hernandez, who's 10-4. And again, we see a lot of green early in his career, and I can see already what happened. If you look at this Kyle Ray's column, is he's fighting in another organization, TPF, and it looks like the same thing happened with some of Sean O'Malley's opponents, whereby this guy was a good prospect, scouted by the UFC, looking good, and they decided to give him a chance, and then he got in the UFC and wasn't quite at the level. So he lost to Marlon Vera in his debut, submitted, rear naked choke, and then he lost his next fight to Jack Shore, same submission, rear naked choke. And if you look at this guy's fights, he gets submitted with rear naked chokes quite not frequently, but all of his losses, his 3 submissions are all from the same submission, rear naked choke. So he must have a problem like giving his back up and then falling into that submission. Okay, so that fighter, we could question whether he's really UFC caliber, because as soon as he got to the UFC, he started just losing. All right. Next fighter is Frankie Sands. 12-7. First thing that stands out to me is his age 40. And you can see all the red hair from 2015 to 2020. So this is a fighter, again, that was kind of past his prime, past his better days when he did fight Marlon Vera. Marlon Vera did what he had to do, because, listen, just because the dude is old doesn't mean you can't fight him. If he's in there, he signed a contract, it's what it is. But, again, when we try to evaluate how good the guy is and all that stuff like that, all those things have to be taken into effect, right? Don't just throw the name at me like, oh yeah, this guy beat BJ Penn or whatever. No, or Tito Ortiz beat Chuck Liddell. Yeah, don't give me the 48-year-old Chuck Liddell. That don't even count. You know, like, a lot of people like to thought, oh yeah, he beat Chuck Liddell. No, he beat a guy that's like a shell of himself. You know, I count fighters in their prime. Again, if you look at this particular guy, you see all the green from 2010 to 2015. Those were his top years. After 2015, he kind of, on the downside, and you can see it reflected in the wins and losses, right? You got Raya Faber, Eddie Wanlin, Augusto Mendez, right? Just like bunch of losses. So this guy's a good fighter, but it's just, seemed like the Father Time caught up to him. Again, another guy, 40 years old, Guido Canetti, 8 wins, 5 losses. The same thing. You see a lot of red right? So he has 5 losses, but you see 4 of them right in the last 6 of his fights here. So Marlon Vera catches him in 2018. Again, this guy's already on the downside of things. As you can see, his better years were from 2007 to about 2013, 2014. All right. So you can see that those last 2 fights were kind of like, I wouldn't say gimmies, but they were definitely easier fights that he had as far as competition than the first 2. But now let's look at the losses real quick. And if you see these losses which took place before those fights, you could kind of see why he got those easier fights. So first, he lost to John Lineker in 2017. Right, so he's working his way up through the ranks, and then he gets this monster, John Lineker, 32-9. Never been knocked out. Just submitted only 3 times and lost 6 decisions. John Lineker had 14 knockouts, 4 submissions, 13 decisions. So he's gonna knock your head off. And again, his recent losses: Corey Sandhagen, prospect for the championship; T.J. Dillashaw, former champion. All right. So again, you talking about lions fighting lions. He lost to that guy. No shame in losing to John Lineker. The next loss was February 2018 against Douglas Silva DeAndre. Who was that? Oh my God, 26-3. Monster Theater. Again, knockout artist. 19 knockouts out of 26. He only has 1 submission and 6 decisions. 19 knockouts of 26. So you know what that means? That dude hits hard. You know what I mean? He's not playing. You know what I mean? He hits you and you waking up somewhere else. He in the land of the lost. You know what I mean? So, and this guy, his only losses: Peter Yan. Who's that? Present champion. Rob Font. Monster. Do I gotta show you all the lines? The 17-4. Do I gotta show you these dudes? These dudes aren't just losing to anybody. Then Zubara Tukhugov, one of Khabib's crew over there in Dagestan, right? The lions are only losing to lions. So even though we see Marlon Vera has some losses, we see that the only dudes he's losing to are the top of the top. He's losing to like lions, monsters. I know I keep using those animals a lot, but those are like, lions, tigers, bears. He's losing to guys that are championship caliber, people that either fought for the championship or they like right in that discussion for a championship title fight. Okay, so my argument is that Marlon Vera's competition is tougher, and he's used to fighting guys on a high level. All right. Another thing I want to point out too is Marlon Vera has fought knockout artists before. John Lineker, and then I showed you the other guy that had the 19 knockouts. Okay. Douglas Silva DeAndre, right? He's fought guys with heavy hands. However, if you look at this stat right here that I'm about to highlight, in his 6 losses, never been knocked out and never been submitted. He lost 6 decisions, right? So, therefore, I'm inclined to say that neither is Sean O'Malley going to be able to knock him out. Okay? To me, it seems like Sean O'Malley, that's the only way he's gonna win if it's by knockout. He has 3 decisions, so it's possible, right? But he has 8 of his 12 wins by knockout, and he has 1 submission, right? So anything's possible, right? Like Tyson used to say, it's a fight. It's a fight. Anything can happen, but trying to come up with some kind of probability, it seems like he's not gonna be knocked out. Marlon Vera, I'm saying. Now, Marlon Vera has, in his 15 wins, 8 submissions, 5 knockouts. So to me, I see some more well-roundedness. If it goes to the ground, or even if he's getting outstruck, he can rely on his ability to submit. And if you look up Marlon Cheeto Vera's highlights, a lot of submissions, a lot of rear naked chokes, right? He's vicious, but he also has the hands, so he can do both. So I like that guys having more tools. I'm not saying Sean O'Malley doesn't have the tools, but Ali can go on what's actually been proven in the UFC, right? I can't count these outside organizations because you don't know what type of dudes are stepping in the ring, again in competition. So when I put everything together, like I have to go with Cheeto Vera. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but it is what it is. But like if I'm putting money down, which I am, I'm putting my money on Marlon Vera. Now I don't know if he's gonna stop uh, O'Malley or by submission or knockout or decision. But I am saying that that Vera is gonna win. That's my choice. So I look forward to hearing your comments. That's it for this video. This is a new channel that I started. I just want to let everybody know I do breakdowns of boxing. I love boxing, jiu-jitsu, right? Just pure jiu-jitsu and judo videos. So check my channel for some other videos. I have like 5 there, like I just started. So as with any channel, sometimes you just start, there's a lot of little hiccups and stuff like that. So please forgive me, like, ramble on too much, make a little bit of mistakes here and there. It'll get better as I go on. So I would like to hear your comments. Please hit the subscribe and the like button. And tell me what you think honestly. Like, or if you don't agree with me, why I might be wrong. That way I could change my bet before it's too late. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, I would love to hear from you. Please check my links below. Please support my channel, and definitely the thumbs up and likes, because that helps move the videos up in the algorithm of YouTube, so it just doesn't get lost in the sea of videos. So, and hey, if you make money because of my analysis, hey, come back and donate. Send me like $5 or something, $10, and little say, hey man, thank you, because like I said, I'm trying to make this channel, and these predictions, like, be like uncanny. I want this channel to be like, the one that people like, listen, man, go to this dude's channel, because when he calls it, he's gonna give you, he's gonna, you're gonna win. So, with that, we'll see what happens. I'll be looking at some other fights. I don't know if I can have the time to make a video about it, because I've been looking at this Felice Herrig and Verna Jandiroba fight. I also been looking at the Jim Miller, Vink Pichel fight, and also this one with Tony Kelly. I mean, there's a lot of fights, so I don't know if I could get to all of them, but I definitely wanted to get to this one because Sean O'Malley is popular. And like I said, I just think this is the time to get paid. Like, this is one of those moments where you can see that the hype train get temporarily derailed. Sean O'Malley is very talented, but I definitely think this right here, if he just runs through this guy, then you might be seeing like the next Conor McGregor, But like I said, to me, Tito Vera is like real deal, man. Like, real deal, and tested with tough competition. And I just don't see that same level of competition that in Sean O'Malley's guys that Marlon Vera has. So like I said, you let me know what you think. All right. So I'll see you guys soon on the next video.